probably the best locker room I have seen as far as the swim program goes since I've been here, with the leadership that we've got and the buy-in for their goals and aspirations. I think a lot of the success last year, again, from NCAAs, the dual meets, all of that has created a lot of excitement for our program and everybody wanting to continue to build off of that.
Why can't we strengthen our mind so then when, the stuff hits the fan, which it's going to, right? Life is, you think football is hard, you think sports are hard, life's a whole heck of a lot harder. Why don't we teach them these skills and principles in their sport so then they can go and thrive through those hard times in life?
Here we go. Welcome into another episode of the Inside WSU Athletics podcast. We are excited for another packed show. We've got head swimming coach Russ Whitaker stopping by and Cougar football legend Luke Falk joining this episode as well. So much to get to, and we welcome in, as we always do, to the director of athletics here at WSU, Ann McCoy. And Ann, it is a busy time of year. There is so much going on, and I think back right now, football was on the road against Virginia, and then coming up, the Cougs are back at home this weekend, family weekend, taking on Toledo. It's going to be great to see all the Cougs back at Giesa Field.
Oh my gosh, it is that was a lot of travel those last 2 weeks for everybody, but so much fun. I think, again, at Virginia, we had such a great group of Cougs there. Obviously the team played, really hard, amazingly well. Got to connect with some former Cougs, or I know you're never a former Coug, right? Tony and Laurel Bennett and Ronnie Weideman, obviously all still in the Charlottesville area, and a good chance to see them and a lot of great Cougs there. But super excited to be back at home, back at Giesa Field. And as you mentioned, family weekend. We kick off Friday night with a fun Viva Las Cougs event at Beasley, where folks will have a chance to meet the men's and women's basketball team and have DJ Trunks, doing all the amazing things he does for the fans. And so it's going to be really exciting. And then, football game. We have some exhibition men's and women's basketball. It's like a great weekend of things in Pullman.
It really is. For anyone coming to town, for everyone in town, it is packed. You've got plenty of things to do and so many different Cougar athletic options. And you mentioned the hoops as far as that goes. Right after football is done, you can go over and see that men's basketball exhibition game on Saturday. That tips off at 6 o'clock. Women's hoops, they'll have their kind of season debut, their exhibition opener against Eastern Oregon. That's coming up on Sunday. And just kind of looking back to what most recently has happened in Cougar athletics. Volleyball to split at home against San Diego and Loyola Marymount. Another tough matchup this week against conference leader San Diego. Tennis, the last time out for them, had a doubles pair reach the final of the ITA Northwest Regional. Soccer ended up battling to a 1-1 draw with Gonzaga. They're on the road this week at Oregon State and at Portland as well. And then swimming, and we'll be talking more about Cougar swimming coming up here in just a few minutes, but they finished second at the Open Water Championships. And Ann, that's interesting here. Open water events, how common are those in collegiate swimming?
Oh boy, I would say not very common. We could ask Russ a little bit more about it, but they're really not. That's not an NCAA event per se, but it's becoming, I would say, more and more popular for collegiate teams in the U.S. to do that. And I think, as you're looking at recruiting distance swimmers in particular, whether it's from the U.S. or internationally, open water is definitely a piece of it because it is very much a thing on the international stage of swimming. So, starting to be more and more. I think the MPSF sponsors a championship. The College Swim Coaches and Diving Association does. So it's becoming, I think, a little more prevalent, but not anything certainly at Washington State that we've done a ton. So it was really neat to see the team, of the contingent that went down to do that and how they finished. And it's a unique and kind of fun and different. So.
Yeah, what a cool experience there. And then kind of keeping the theme on the water, rowing opened the season at the head of Spokane. WSU captured the V8 and V4 races, and then heading to Sacramento for the head of the American coming up this weekend. So again, we got a lot to get to here. Luke Falk will be our guest. We'll have him right around the corner. But first, more on Cougar swimming. Well, we are fired up to have our first guest on this week's show. And Ann, can you tell us who we have the pleasure of visiting with here today?
Yeah, Chris, we're super excited to have Russ Whitaker, our head women's swim coach, here with us. Russ, welcome. Glad to have you. So why don't we start off, just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got into swimming.
Yeah, so I guess the fun fact I like to share with everybody first off is I was born in a small town in southern Utah, Kanab, Utah, just outside of Zion National Park, and then was raised in Wyoming with my mom. So I'm the opposite of everybody, whereas Pullman, Washington is actually the largest town I've ever lived in. It's a metropolis to me, so definitely the different end of the spectrum. But I grew up doing a multitude of sports, mainly baseball, basketball, and swimming. And then as I got older, I actually had a arm injury. I broke my arm, and so that led me to going into the sport of swimming. My mom dropped me off with our club team to make sure I was still doing sports. She understood the value that brought as a life skill, and so I kind of went into swimming a little bit more kicking and screaming than most people would, but had a very successful high school and club swimming career, and then went on to the University of Wyoming. I did not swim collegiately, but that is where I got my coaching journey kind of right away. I started off as a student assistant coach there with Tom Johnson and that program, and getting to work their swim camps and all of that. And then, I decided to make my way up here to Pullman, Washington here eventually. So.
And I think you've been at in WSU since 2017, right, Russ? And so how has Pullman kind of grown on you?
Yeah, it's been an awesome journey. I think especially for me, again, being a little bit more unique that, at first coaching wasn't exactly in the picture. I came up here to be a teacher starting off here at Washington State, and then really missed the sport. And so I decided to be a volunteer coach with the previous coaching staff, Tom Jager, when he was the head coach here. And that's where my journey got started. But truly, it is that community of Pullman is what has resonated, and especially why I never want to leave Pullman. It truly is just a unique sense of community once you experience not only just Pullman, but obviously the athletic department here as well, just the amazing support that we all have, and just everybody has their back, right? I love that it's not so much of sending emails in the department, it's actually going and seeing each other in each other's offices, checking in on one another and all of that. And so that has just been such a unique experience compared to Pullman, just with other places that I've lived, and just different aspects of that as well.
Well, we'll keep that theme going here, talking about Pullman. So in addition to coaching at WSU, you also coach local youth programs, which has produced a number of collegiate swimmers over the years. What has led to that? Who knew that Pullman was such a hotbed for talent?
Yeah, I think that, when I was working with Cougar Aquatics, I stepped more into the board aspect of stuff now. But when I was coaching Cougar Aquatics, a big thing of mine is allowing kids to make sure that they chase those dreams and those aspirations that they have. I think that really coming in of not letting a goal be too big for kids. And I know that we definitely had big goals and big aspirations set with a lot of the club kids that I was able to coach, a lot of them going on to university of all levels, right? We've had kids go on to Whitworth. We have kids at WSU, Utah, Tennessee. We had kids go to USC, South Carolina. So a lot of different areas, but really making sure that we always bought into their dreams and their aspirations. And I think that just showed that, great things can happen here in Pullman, Washington, especially at that club level and the resources that we were able to provide. But I do truly think it was just buying into their dreams and making sure as a coach I was able to match that same energy, and that we were always on the same goals and everything with each other as we moved through that. And again, it started off of kids being at more of a sectional, regional level, and then eventually getting an athlete up to the Olympic trials and all of that, which was extremely exciting for us as a club program.
Yeah, Russ, I think it just shows so many of our sports have such a connection to the community, and certainly the swimming program has been able to do that through the club. So you mentioned earlier, you came in under Tom Jager's staff, and then on Matt Leach's staff also. Maybe talk about, working on those two staffs and kind of what did you take from those head coaches that you had a chance to be, working with and be mentored by?
Yeah, starting off with Tom Jager, he brought me in as a volunteer and truly gave me the opportunity that I had here at Washington State. And so, all of my club coaches I've worked with in the past, I'd love to be able to shout them out individually if I had the time, but being able to take everything I've learned from them as well into every aspect of my practice, whether it's how you interact with your athletes, warm-ups, how we do dry land activities, all of that. And so you see that mixture, but specifically talking on Tom Jager, I really appreciated that you could have very upfront and honest conversations. I think as a coach, he was extremely upfront and honest, didn't want to, would be very transparent with his athletes. And I think that was the most valuable thing I was able to take, right? I want to make sure that we're still respectful with our athletes. And it comes back to like what we talked about the club team as far as goals of, yes, we have those goals, those aspirations, and making sure that, yes, they're realistic and we have this realistic map to be able to get to that as well. And so I always did appreciate that about Tom Jager. We could sit down, have those honest conversations with each other. And he always asked for my opinion. Even at that time when I was the director of operations, I'd sit out and watch practice. But I always appreciated that, and especially for him he was a role model of mine, being a 5-time gold medalist and world record holder in the 50 free and stuff. And so that was always just unique. I got to kind of sit next to my superhero, if you will, in the sport, and being able to have those interactions. And so that was something I loved. And especially I think that just the amount of how much the athletes, they did love him for what he was able to do for them and stuff. That was really cool. And then as Matt Leach came in, that was, we had seen each other at the University of Wyoming. Matt was the associate head coach when I was a student there at the University of Wyoming. So we had interacted in the past, but especially with how I was able to bring stuff in, I think is how holistically he embraces a program, especially on the academic side, that family that he would always preach and stuff like that as well. And just really more on that holistic end of how we want to tie in the student athlete and also their, how they are as a person, and all of that was the biggest connection I was able to draw for him within those last few years.
Last year, your first as the head coach, the Cougars sent 3 individuals to the NCAA championships, only the second time in program history accomplishing that. How proud of you were you of that? An incredible accomplishment for the program.
Yeah, I was extremely excited for the program. I think watching that, we knew what we were going to be capable of, but I don't know if we were really expecting the results from all 3 of our athletes that we had at the NCAA championships, right? And I think that really set our team up for a lot of success. And we continue, the first day I met with our team, after the coaching change from Matt Leach, I remember I spoke with the girls, and it was, again, as we spoke, it was not about proving people wrong. It's about proving ourselves right. That's the biggest thing. I do think there's a huge difference between those two. I think when you're out to prove people wrong, that's drawn through negative emotions and all of that. Whereas if you're out to prove yourself right, that's just done by, I think, why we all got into sports in the first place. And so we really embraced that throughout the year. And so again, watching Emily Lundgren, get to that 6th place finish in the 200-yard breaststroke, getting All-America honor still in the 100 breaststroke. We had Darcy Revitt break the 22-second barrier for us in the 50-yard freestyle and being 17th. And then Doria Thazi going on to that 25th place finish there as well. So, as a coach, I was extremely proud of them. And again, I think it just also just shows and highlights, what we're going to continue to accomplish here at Washington State.
Well, that leads us right into talking about this year's team. Can you fill us in about this year's squad, having just had the season start?
Yeah, this is an amazing squad. I heard, Coach Schulenberger talked about it on his podcast, but I would kind of echo that this is probably the best locker room I have seen as far as the swim program goes since I've been here, with the leadership that we've got and the buy-in for their goals and aspirations. I think a lot of the success last year, again, from NCAAs, the dual meets, all of that has created a lot of excitement for our program and everybody wanting to continue to build off of that. Our freshman class, they are just doing a phenomenal job buying into the program, immediately stepping in to fill those shoes that were left by some of our seniors that graduated last year. We've got a couple of transfers as well. So I think the excitement, we are in a great spot. Our first meet down in Fresno, first time that we've been 3rd at that swim meet, and highlighted by a lot of great swims and victories in different events. And then we actually had 4 athletes last week head off to the MPSF championships in Los Angeles for an open water meet, and absolutely crushed it out there with a 4th, 6th, and 12th place finish for the individuals, and then 2nd overall in the relay. And they were second behind Rice, who were the open water national champions last year. So we can't really complain with any of those results that we had there. So this year's off to a great start. Excited for our meets coming up next weekend, but very excited with where we're at.
And so, Russ, lastly, switching gears, outside of the pool, what do you like to do? What do you enjoy doing in your free time?
Oh, man. Fishing definitely is that top one. Anytime I can be out fishing, that is the big one with my wife and I. We absolutely love to do that. I mean, I joke with everybody, our destination vacation is always Elk River, Idaho, the paradise of the Rockies, I say. So any chance that we get to go fishing, hiking, camping, and just getting to hang out with that's where you can definitely find us in our free time and spending time with. We've got 2 dogs and 2 cats, so it's a busy household. Obviously, the cats stay home, but we get to take the dogs out with us and make sure we enjoy as much time in the great outdoors as we're allowed to.
Well, good stuff. We appreciate you being here today. Thanks so much for the time.
Yeah, thank you, and go Cougs.
Great. Thanks, Russ. Go Cougs.
Well, here we go. We are excited to welcome in someone who needs no introduction for Coug fans, but Ann, tell us who we have the absolute pleasure of joining us right now.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. We are so excited to have Luke Falk joining us today. Luke, welcome. And wow, 2017, right? When you graduated from WSU 8 years ago-ish. So tell us, what have you been up to since you left Bowman?
Well, thank you. Go Cougs. I feel like an old guy when you say that. And anyways, I've been doing some coaching. I was in college coaching for a little bit, got out of that, and I'm doing what I call mind strength coaching. So I'm helping athletes and coaches and even parents kind of navigate the world of how to strengthen someone's mind. We work so hard physically on all the physical skills and talents, but when it comes down to a game you remember the rest of your life versus a game you want to forget the rest of your life, I've had plenty of those. It really had nothing to do with your physical capability, but it had everything to do with the headspace and the mindset that you were in going to the game. So what I focus on doing now is helping athletes really train that piece of it, which is probably the thing that can help them unlock everything they've worked so hard for. So it's been a lot of fun. It's just taken off like crazy. I was kind of doing it on the side, and then was doing it with college coaching as well, and then all of a sudden started doing it full time, and it's been like pretty amazing, because I think a lot of people, there's a definite need for it, right? We talk about mental health so much, and I really think that kids really gravitate towards this because they know how important it is, and the problem is they just really don't know how to train it or work on it. And I think it's fun for them to be able to have somebody like myself who's been in their shoes. I'm not having $10 to my name and trying to tell them, hey, how to become a millionaire, right? I've done what I've said I've done, or teaching in what I'm doing. So I've got some real life experience that I think the kids gravitate towards.
Well, that makes so much sense. And you touched on the fact that you did college coaching for a little bit, Luke. How was that? Did some of the things that previous coaches told you kind of start to make sense? I would kind of see it from a different lens when you were in that spot.
A little bit for sure. I'm like, oh, my coaches weren't so crazy. So, anyways, it was definitely a fun deal for me where you get to be on that side of it, and I always like having people who come in my training be able to learn and go teach the material, because you get to know it at a different level. Like I played in the air raid with Mike Leach, obviously there at Washington State, and I thought I had my PhD in air raid. And then I go coach, and it's like, oh, I didn't know anything, and now I'm learning a whole new side of it. So it was really fun for me to be able to do that. And then some of the things that maybe my coaches said to me at a certain point, they didn't resonate. It's like that old saying, hey, the teacher will appear when the student's ready. Well, I must not have been ready when I was a student athlete, but then when I got into the coaching world, it's like, oh, that makes sense. So now I'm trying to help these kids a little bit earlier, but sometimes you just need some life experience to go, oh, that makes sense now.
The public speaking part, the consulting part with what you're doing now, what's the most gratifying aspect of it? It sounds like it's going great, and it must be just so much fun to be able to help people in a spot that you were in.
That's really it. So, I just wrote a book. It's coming out. It's doing really well right now. And I really wrote it for my younger self. I wrote it for my parents. I wrote it for the coaches that, were I got impacted by. And so the most gratifying thing for me is I'm really giving the younger self who I was the answers to the tests that I wanted, that I needed, really. And I think a lot of kids, I'm in the majority. I think a lot of kids struggle with confidence. A lot of kids look for their approval seeking. A lot of kids seek external validation. That was me. And what a gift it was to be able to go through that stuff and experience, the highs and lows in the athletic world, to be able to help equip these athletes so they're not living on what I call the teeter-totter trap, right? It's like a good outcome, a comparison. People say something nice about you, that teeter-totter goes up. Well, what happens when all those other things don't happen? Well, it goes down, and you're living on this constant anxiety type of playground, because all those things you can't control. And I learned from my sports psychologist that when you focus on things you can't control, your anxiety increases. And if your anxiety increases, what's going to happen to your performance? How about the quality of your life? Oh, it goes down. So really what I'm trying to get these kids and these athletes and parents and coaches to understand is, let's create a strong foundation that isn't dictated on the outcomes, the external, the things that you can't control, what somebody says on social media. And it's been very gratifying to see. Listen, not only I want them to win on the scoreboard, I do, certainly. I want them to achieve all those things. But the greatest satisfaction for me is seeing the internal shift where the kid goes from, hey, up and down to no, I'm solid. I'm grounded. Not like they're gonna not have hard days, but they know how to handle it better. It's like I think mind strength coaching to me is like learning how to change a tire before you need to actually know how to change that tire. It's like working prehab, right? In sports, Tom Brady played till he was 45. Well, why? He had this thing called pliability where he trained his body for those hits. He trained his body for those situations so he didn't have to go through rehab. Well, why can't we do the same thing with our mind? Why can't we strengthen our mind so then when, the stuff hits the fan, which it's going to, right? Life is, you think football's hard, you think sports are hard, life's a whole heck of a lot harder. Why don't we teach them these skills and principles in their sport so then they can go and thrive through those hard times in life? That's what I'm after.
Oh, that's great, Luke. So, yeah, for everyone, the Mind Strength Playbook recently released, and it's great to hear kind of what brought you into writing it and why you did it. And from your time here and all the time since, just you have such amazing insight, I think, and just strength in doing what it takes to really to commit to yourself and being the best you can be. So you spent 5 seasons with Mike Leach. So I suppose you probably have. There's probably not enough time in the day for the millions of stories you may have about him, but what maybe some lessons you learned from him about either football or life?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you wanted the funny stories, we'd probably have to go to the Coug or something and be there all night. We could dive into those. But some stories that have really, or I guess some lessons that have really shaped who I am, and even the way I coach is, Coach Leach was all about application, right? We've heard the saying, "Knowledge is power." I grew up believing that was true, and what I realized that's not right. It's actually the application of knowledge that's power. If I know the answer C on a test, yet I put B, that's not very powerful. So in football, there's a lot of quarterbacks that can recite the front, the defensive coverage, the shifts, pressure looks, all that stuff, and they know it, yet they don't know how to apply that information to make them play better. Mike, Coach Leach was phenomenal at being able to, hey, this is our game plan, this is our offense. And we were masters at applying the knowledge that he wanted us to. Therefore, every quarterback that played for him was pretty much a record-setting quarterback, right? His system allowed us to utilize our full talents gifts. He didn't confuse us. So less is more, which is a great tool to be able to help athletes apply, what the knowledge that they have. So I think it was for me, and I go talk to coaches about it all the time. People ask me, "Hey, can you give me some pointers?" And a lot of it is, hey, let's simplify. Let's simplify so you can get these kids to actually apply what you're wanting them to. Because I've seen it firsthand. There's a thing in coaching called, hey, you got coach killers, right? A player that just doesn't do well. A lot of that time probably is because you've overcomplicated things. And really, you're actually the quarterback killer in most cases if you're a coach in that regard. I've seen some offenses like, I would have never been able to play for you. And here I am, a Pac 12 record setting quarterback because of the system that I played in and the coach that I played for. So long-winded answer, but I just like, even as a parent, like it's not about what it's about what can you get your kid to apply. So I think there's a real art and a real skill for the top tier coaches of they have that ability to, this is the message that I know, and I don't even want you to know it. I want you to be able to do it. And that's probably something I look at my own mind strength deal. It's like, okay, all right, this is a great concept. If you're not getting it, I need to simplify it or I need to teach it better, coach it better, whatever it is. And I really thank Coach Leach for that.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, and then looking back, Luke, that 2015 football team going to be recognized this weekend, 10 years after winning the Sun Bowl. What do you remember most about that team?
Yeah, well, thanks again for setting that up. I know, a lot of you guys really pulled for that. So thanks, Ann, and I know Ike and a number of people, Bill Stevens. And so really appreciate that. I know my teammates are very grateful as well. I think that team, I view it as like a gritty bunch. You talk about a resilient bunch of dudes, and they went through some dark periods. A lot of those guys who were part of some, really rough years at Washington State. And then that year we've turned it on. And we didn't start out hot. We lost to Portland State in a total, that loss. I still can't believe that we did it, but it didn't start off great. And the way that we finished, the resilience that we had, there were so many tight games that year. I don't know, it seemed like every game was a dogfight, and we were fortunate enough to come out on the other side on quite a few. There's still some that I want back. But and then what I remember about the Sun Bowl is it was not very sunny at all. It was very cold. It was a snow bowl. And but it was fun because it felt like when we played Oregon at Oregon, we won in double overtime. That kind of felt like the turn. And then after that, it seemed like Washington State, we had a pretty good run. And so it was fun to be part of that 2015 team that was really foundational, that really set the culture. And I know those guys have a lot of pride when they look back and they see the things that are happening at Washington State. They're like, that they know that they're part of that, especially in this new era, I guess. Yeah.
I think that's well said. I mean, that year started the run of 7 straight bowl games for the team. You mentioned that pride. That's got to be something I imagine you and your teammates talk about when you connect. And I know coming up this weekend about bringing the Cougs back to national recognition that year.
Yeah, it really was fun. It was like what they had hired Coach Leach to do kind of came to fruition. And it really was the domino effect in a positive way to then lead to an 11-win season with Gardner Minshew and those guys. I think the 2015 team felt a lot of pride watching game day in Pullman because I think without, the Joe Dahls of the world, the Gunnar Eklunds, the Jeremiah Allisons, the Destiny Vials, that probably doesn't happen, right? So really fun. And then it was really, really pretty miserable. So it's like we went through some really tough stuff, especially with Coach Leach. That was before all those nice NCAA rules were in full swing. So we were doing all his crazy stuff, which toughened us up and made it real fun in that regard. It wasn't fun going through it, but now we look back on it, we've got a lot of pride of just like, hey, we really did it. We really changed a culture that was pretty bad when we got in, to be completely honest with you. A very victim-minded, moping around, selfish culture, and then we really made it into a team-oriented place, and it's very fun to see it now. And then it's great to have Ann and all these people that really care about Washington State back in charge. So I'm very proud to be helping as much as I can, and I know my teammates are feeling the same way, where we just want to contribute and make the experience for these student athletes the same that we had. I want to shout out Wade. He bought my book for every student athlete. We're actually going to go pass those out to the student athletes at Washington State. So that's very fun. And then the Hurley Media Group, they helped me film a thing called How to Manage Game Stress and Nerves, which is a coaching series that I think a lot of student athletes are interested in because we all get nervous before games. And Jim Spooner there is allowing me to gift that to all the student athletes. So trying to do my small part to be able to give back and help these student athletes out. So anyways, it's not much, but definitely want to contribute back to a place that means so much to me.
No, Luke, I mean, honestly, it's you say it's not much, but it's really priceless, honestly, to all the student athletes who have access to that. And you left such a positive impact from your time here, and just continuing to be involved and be connected. That's what being a Cougs all about. So I mean, we can't thank you enough for that and for your time today. And before we let you go, I'll just ask the open-ended question. Any last fun story or anything from your time at WSU you want to share? No pressure. I mean, that's probably a lot to choose from, but
yeah, there's so much. I think my first career start is something that always jumps out to me. We're playing Oregon State, and it was pretty surreal. Where I think it was probably the best game of my life, and just being able to see the support of Coug Nation, and I mean there were more. It felt like there were Coug into the game in Corvallis than there were even Oregon State fans, and I just remember how special that was. It was like surreal. You go walk on, and here you get the opportunity, and it just felt like, well, holy cow, how blessed am I? And anyway, so I love Washington State. Without Washington State, without all the amazing people there like Bill Stevens, Bobby, JP Mill. I mean, I can go on and on. Brian Ayo. I mean, there's so many people there that have been part of helping me and develop me. And I know they're doing the same for the student athletes there, that doing what I'm doing now. I'm mind strength coach, and I'm not writing a book. Without Washington State, nobody knows Luke Falk. Without Washington State, who knows where I'm at? Probably selling, insurance and not being very good at it. So probably I'm very grateful to Washington State, all the people that have impacted me in a positive way. And so just thank you for all you guys do, and looking forward to seeing the new era. I really feel good about where we're headed. I really do. I think it's all about I read a book. It's like Good to Great. You guys read that book by I think it's Jim Collins. And the number one thing that allows a company to be able to do that is it's about having the right people on the bus. And I think that we've got the right people on the bus. So that to me if you've got the right people, you really can go any direction and you'll find a way. It's like if you take ownership, you'll look for and you'll find a solution. I think that's exactly what's happening, especially with your leadership, Andy. So thanks.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Luke. Appreciate it.
Luke, great stuff. Can't wait to see you and your teammates here this weekend. And thanks for spending a few minutes to visit with us here.
Yeah, thank you. Go Cougs. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Luke. Go Cougs.
Again, not only a big thank you to Luke Falk, but Russell Whitaker as well. That will do it for this edition of the Inside WSU Athletics podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and go Cougs.
Go Cougs.